Welcome everyone. Community-based disaster drill. This is what we'll be discussing in today's video. What is disaster drill and what is community and how better the impact would be happening if there's a regular disaster drill by community done on a regular basis. So yes, we will talk about community-based disaster drill. Remember, at the time of disaster, when strikes, everybody is differently shocked. The impact is completely different. But if everybody knows what is expected of them, probably the regeneration of fighting the disaster must be in a better position to do it on a community scale. So yes, disaster drill is a must. Regular disaster drill will only strengthen the focus, probably trust, and probably the faith in disaster mitigation. So, disaster management. Remember, no government structure which is fully responsible for disaster. Nobody, not a single government can tell they are 100% disaster proof. Probably not. Why? Because they require a lot of interventions from a different organization, department, be it water, be it energy, be it transportations, you name it, we have it. It's a multi-pronged approach that needs to be going around it. And I'm talking only about man-made disaster. But what happens if there's a natural disaster? Can you predict it? Probably no. Absolutely no. Man-made disaster, man knows what are the loopholes and they will fight it out along with it. But what about natural? You don't have a iota of an idea of what exactly is going to happen, what scale of disaster is going to strike. So we need to have a separate approach to disaster. Natural disaster by fire department per se, chemical disaster by Ministry of Environment per se, biological disaster in terms of health, Ministry of Health and Welfare, and definitely yes, the man-made disaster of nuclear disaster. It should be done by Education, Ministry of Education and Science. So essential is inefficacious in combined type of disaster. In case two or more disaster strikes at the same time, everything goes helter-skelter. Administrative, not a medical approach is required for disaster management. Remember, this is what we are going around it. We should be more prepared. Disaster drill will make you much more educate you about what is expected of you during disaster. Not a single government can say that they are disaster proof. To fight any kind of disaster, there are a number of departments that needs to chip in. And believe me or not, it is everybody as a humanity, the community has to chip in, irrespective of where the disaster strikes. So even if it strikes in my country, probably it's going to have an impact in your country. If it strikes in your country, will have an impact on my country and probably on me. No matter how minuscule or the magnitude is completely different, but it is definitely going to have an impact. So disaster medicine not recognized as a specialty science, but one of those things that makes disaster somewhat tolerable, right? If you have the requisite medicine intervention facilities out there. So yes, you're talking about emergency response. Yes, we are talking about preparedness during emergency. Now, what are we looking into it is the community-based disaster drill. As in first-time responder, what is the first-time responder supposed to do in case he, probably she, meets a victim? Probably the victim might be hemorrhage, the blood might be oozing around, or the victim is very difficult to is having difficulty in breathing, or the victim is completely dizzy. There is something physically damaged. So you need to understand what happens around it. So yes, the first responder may not be medically qualified, but he can or she can be effective in calming the situation and keeping the situation, not letting the situation go out of control. So drill for radiological and nuclear disaster. We should talk about structural education as to what is happening around it. DMAT is disaster medical assistant team that is required for regional emergency services. Now, this is what I've just given you a pic about what community can do around here. We have makeshift tents that has been carried out. If victims are found, how to be carrying it out? How to ensure if there are no injuries in the spinal cord? What goes wrong? Remember, disaster is not only going to happen during calamities or natural things. It can be a man-made disaster. It can be a scale has to be completely different also. There might be a road accident in front of you and you have victims been flying over here and there. What to do, what not to do? As a first-hand responder, what will you do? What is expected? How do you going to transport the victims to the medical center, the hospital, as the case might be? What are the first aid interventions that you are going to go around it? I am trying to give you a pick so that everybody remains calm, plays to the nerves, ensure that nothing goes out of the hand per se. And that is what community preparedness during disaster drill is all about. It is everybody's responsibilities to ensure that disaster scale can be contained and probably we can bounce back, recover faster than expected. So yes, we should have the requisite infrastructure. We should have the requisite number of ambulances, transport facility, medicals facility, hospitals at a very nearby centers, along with qualified doctors, paramedic, medical staff. So lessons, what are the lessons for community-based disaster drill? First and foremost, define disaster. What should be prepared? Who should prepare it? How it is to be coordinated? Who can collaborate about it? Improve attitude, knowledge, coping with disaster. Reduce time as on when on basis. Remember, time is of essence during disaster. The shorter the response time, the faster the recovery would be. That if the duration of the response time is longer, it is going to damage you further, and that needs to be avoided. Yes, I'm giving you a mock drill pick about nuclear disaster, about radiological disaster, what to do. If you look into it, these are three actors or stakeholders who are actually going to fight the nuclear. Let's say there's a bomb out here, probably anything. But I am not interested on only these three gentlemen or ladies that they are trying to fight it out. Look at everybody. They are also covered up. They are also covered up. Everyone is covered up in case of a nuclear disaster. So you need to take protection. The community has to be educated. Features. What is my radiological and nuclear disaster? This difficult to detect in real situation? Definitely yes. In a crowded metro and a crowded places, what happens if something goes wrong? What happens if somebody deliberately wants to do something nuisance, some nuisance? Acute catastrophic event, which is rare. The mass and the health provider is all about fear. You know, when disaster strikes, half of the population do not know how to react and in turn are afraid of. And in such an event, probably things goes wrong. Translation of knowledge and skill is very important. Health provider, target educations and training thereby. So yes, we are giving you a makeshift camp, a makeshift medical facilities where you can treat the victims probably as on when on there. If it is a blood transfusion that you require, if you require minor interventions as far as surgeries are concerned, you are supposed to get it done. Regional training centers, we are talking about emergency physician, emergency nurses, emergency medical transcriptors, health department officials. What are we looking into it? We are talking about everything that the government can provide. Is didactic classes, skill classes, drill classes. If things can be communicated with the community, if the community is aware of what exactly is supposed to happen. NDLC are certain things that goes for the disasters. Let's say the basic disaster life support. We have certain program that needs to be done. Advanced disaster life support, core disaster life support. We have the instructor course. The Deccan is the National Disaster Life Support. We have the electronic basic disaster for life support, electronic core disaster for life support. Now, what I'm trying to give it to the audiences or the participant to the video are the basic best practices that are there in the advanced economies. We are talking about life support, how it can help us in elevating the loss of lives altogether through basics courses, advanced courses, for instructor based courses, core disaster life support. These are the national disaster life courses that can be done probably by various economies, various countries. So DMAT, what happens is the activation criteria is less than 15 minutes. Probably you should not be initiated and it should be taken by the local affairs, local communities then and there. If there are 15 or less people affected, probably how critical they are, I'm sure any hospitals can manage them. But what happens when there is more than 15 or more than 43 or more than 50 victims? You are obligatory to respond. No matter it might not come under jurisdiction. You're obligatory to respond or extend your help in any form so that it helps you to mitigate such disaster. It should provide DMAT activity within 1 hour. The regional call center for DMAT has to be done. Within 6 hours, the national wide call center has to be there. So your intervention should not only come from community level, but within 1 hour from the district level. Within 2 hours or 3 hours, probably from the regional level. And within 6 hours, the federal government is supposed to extend some sort of intervention. The DMAT training, DMAT operations and training team as on when on basis. Remember, DMAT is disaster medical assistant team. Now, what are we looking into? Again, disaster medical assistant team training needs to be done as far as monthly base checkup, ensuring the equipment is proper, functioning, ensuring the medicine is within the limit of their expiry date. The public support is just not enough. Educate them. So yes, disaster medical assistant team should look at regional emergency centers, not prepare for the uh, the calamities which can actually affect you in a catastrophic way, as the case might be. Yeah, we are talking about CBRNE would be chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear events. In case certain things happens around here, we need to understand chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear events. If you're not ready for it, it is not going to go around it. Then we have the PPE kits, your people's protection equipment kit that needs to be probably utilized for such kind of unforeseen incidents. Yes, we are talking about scientific infrastructure. Yes, we are talking about research methodology. This will only help us to fight the man-made disaster. Preparing for man-made disaster, we can also ensure that for natural disaster, can we have established some sort of an early warning system. Expert evidence and the clinical evidences, they need to be married, they need to be coordinated. Remember, clinical evidences in future will be all about surveillance systems, all about analysis of disaster management. We are looking to have a syndrome surveillances for biological events, mass casualty and disaster surveillances, as what happens every now and then. With this, I come to an end of this particular community drill for disaster management video. Thank you for watching this video till the end.